Hi friends, welcome to this new episode of On the Couch with Busayo. Yes guys, today we are not on the couch. Why? Because this is basically a to-the explainer of my research on Nigeria's alarming poverty epidemic. And you know what guys, thanks for subscribing to this channel. I love you all. And please, for those who haven't, please do well to subscribe and also click on the bell to receive notifications. Thank you very much. Now, one thing about Nigeria, it has one of the world's highest economic growth rates, averaging 7.4% according to Nigeria Economic Report released in July 2014 by the World Bank. Poverty still remains significant at 3.1% in Africa's biggest economy. For a country with a massive health and a huge population to support commerce, a well-developed economy and plenty of natural resources. However, poverty may have been overestimated due to lack of information on the extremely huge informal sector of the economy, estimated at around 60% more of the current GDP figures. Poverty in Nigeria is caused by the political instability of the country. However, these programs have largely failed to overcome the three reasons for this persistent poverty. There have been attempts of poverty alleviation, most notably with the following programs. In 1972, we had the National Accelerated Food Production Program and the Nigerian Agricultural and Cooperative Bank. In 1976, Operation Feed the Nation to teach rural farmers how to use modern farming tools. In 1979, Green Revolution Program to reduce food importation and increase local food production. 1986, Directorate of Food, Roads and Rural Infrastructure, that is DFRRI. In 1993, Family Support Program and the Family Economic Advancement Program. In 2001, National Poverty Eradication Program to replace the previously failed Poverty Alleviation Program. Now we'll be looking at income inequality, long-time ethnic conflict and civil unrest, and political instability and corruption. Now, looking back at income inequality, as of 2010, the Gini coefficient of Nigeria is rated medium at 0.43. However, they are more rural poor than urban poor. This is correlated with different access to infrastructure and amenities. Those results from the composition of Nigeria's economy, especially the energy, oil and agriculture sectors. Oil exports contribute significantly to government revenues. It contributes 9% to the GDP and employs only a fraction of the population. Agriculture, however, contributes to about 17% of GDP and employs about 30% of the population. Nigeria has consistently failed to mobilize savings for real economic activity. Savings to GDP rate stands at 22%. Thus, there is urgent need to mobilize savings to the real sector. Nigeria must begin to keep to long-term growth. It is, however, important to attract substantial level of foreign direct investment so as to place the economy back on its pre-bust optimum production frontier. And to achieve this, Nigeria needs policy clarity and a drastic dip in uncertainty because the foreign direct investment is highly sensitive to policy somersaults and lack of policy clarity, as investors always keep eyes on policy direction before taking position on the areas of economy with potential to optimize benefit on their investment. Number 2, a significant improvement in the level of trade openness positions the economy for a boundless growth and industrialization. So all this help in overcoming this income inequality. All this helps in the pre-bust optimum production frontier. And looking at the long-term ethnic conflict and civil unrest, Nigeria has historically experienced much ethnic conflict. With the return to civilian rule in 1999, the militants from religious and ethnic groups have become markedly more violent. While this unrest has its roots in poverty and economic competition, it is economic and human damages further escalate the problems of poverty, such as increasing the mortality rate. For instance, ethnic unrest and the displeasure to local communities with oil companies has contributed to the conflict over oil trade in the Niger Delta, which threatens the productivity of oil trade. Civil unrest might also have contributed to the adoption of populist policy measures which work in the short run but impede poverty alleviation efforts. The question of ethnicity has been one of the most topical subjects of study by social scientists. These controversies around this phenomenon seem to have been eaten up by the high visibility of mobilized and politicized ethnic groups in most multi-ethnic states. Therefore, the extent to which ethnic nationalities are able to effectively manage the interplay of ethnic differences determines to what extent a multi-ethnic nation develops without crisis. Historically, Nigeria has come a long way from ethnic entity with political differences, a background to the amalgamation of 1914 to the present structure of 36 states we have now. Ethnicity no doubt has contributed to ethnic conflicts in Nigeria because of long-standing revulsion or resentment toward ethnic groups different from one's own or fear of domination, which can as well lead ethnic groups to resort to violence as a means to protect and preserve the existing ethnic groups. Significantly, ethnicity in Nigeria is a product of inequality among the various ethnic groups by a long period of colonialism, a period which witnessed the ascendancy of three major ethnic groups to the socio-political domination of other ethnic groups, and a period when the three major ethnic groups were used as a pedestal for the distribution of socio-political goods, resulting in the inability of other ethnic groups to access the socio-political goods. This situation has continued to impact negatively on the forces of national integration and cohesion in ethnically divided Nigeria. Considering the relationship between ethnicity and development, socio-political exclusion is not only ethically dangerous to development but also economically unproductive. It deprives groups and individuals of the opportunity for the necessary development that can be beneficial to the society. Thus, it is important to develop an integrated socio-political framework that explicitly recognizes the participatory role of every ethnic group in governance. Hence, there is a need for the adoption of inclusive governance to manage ethnicity in Nigeria. Notwithstanding, ethnic conflict still persists, and an attempt will be made in this study to identify the reasons central to socio-political sustainability in Nigeria is a system that should recognize that differences are important to development and encompass notions of equality. Such a system should acknowledge the socio-political and economic power of every ethnic group and promote a system devoid of ethnocentry and exclusionary socio-political and economic policies. Now, looking at our political instability and corruption. Yes, we've talked about income inequality, long-term ethnic conflict and civil unrest, and now political instability and corruption. Nigeria's large population and historic ethnic instability has led to the adoption of a federal government. The fiscal decentralization provides Nigerian states and local governments considerable autonomy, including control over 50% of government revenues, as well as responsibility for providing public services. The lack of a stringent regulatory and monetary system has allowed for rampant corruption. This has hindered past poverty alleviation efforts to a large extent, since resources which could pay for public goods are directed towards investment are being misappropriated. First, we need to define political instability to be actually sure there is one in Nigeria. According to World Bank, the standard definition of political instability is the propensity of a government collapse either because of conflict or rampant competition between various political parties. And to be sincere, we have different political parties in Nigeria, and we are facing rampant competition between various political parties. In using this definition, there is actually political instability in Nigeria because as much as there is rampant competition between the various political parties, it hasn't in any way affected our democracy. Although the political parties are partly responsible for the fragment of political instabilities that might be showing, if we ask a lot of politicians, they don't know the political ideology of their parties. They are only doing politics, but they don't know. That is why there's a lot of decampment between politicians in Nigeria. How many episodes today tomorrow I'm in PDP? That is a problem with politicians in Nigeria. They don't know what they want, so when they get into power, fragments of their main initiative starts to affect them, making them unaware of the particular routes to go through. Also, with the recent calls of secession from the southeast and south-south, there has been close to lead to or no political instability, as those two issues haven't had any serious immediate effect on our sovereignty. We still maintain political control over every area in the country. We still maintain diplomatic ties to all her allies. Another index for political instability is how free and fair the country is. In 2015, we achieved something no other country in Africa had achieved: a peaceful transition of presidential power from the incumbent party to another was a big turn up for our democracy. I'm actually happy about this. Yes, the winner party came into the most stable democracy in Africa. Whatever they have done with it is to be judged individually. Then it should also be pointed out that our politics is that emotional sentiment which divides the country. The two biggest parties, I don't need to tell you, apart from the different ideologies or different areas of the country due to mostly ethnicity and religion. In the southeast, APC is a party disliked by many because it's a party with very few evils. The PDP is also a minority in the southwest due to the same reason. Then there is the chief issue: corruption. According to Transparency International, we are the 148th most corrupt country in the world out of 180 countries. This is really worrisome for our country because it shows that a lot of things happening in Nigeria are motivated by corrupt practices. Now, whether Nigeria is politically unstable, that is for you to decide, but I think we're doing just fine. We aren't doing a great or doing terrible, we are just fine. Should I say we are in between, because whether Nigeria is politically unstable or not, it is left to you to decide, but I think we're doing just fine. We aren't doing great or doing terrible. We are just fine. In conclusion, corruption increases the level of instability and the risks of conflict by undermining the legitimacy and credibility of state institutions and weakening peace building and peacekeeping efforts. In parallel, conflict creates corruption patterns that might not have existed previously. Corruption and poverty have to be addressed by diverting scarce public resources is a major obstacle for poverty reduction, and explains whether if so how the link between poverty reduction and the fight against corruption is included in the poverty reduction strategies (PRS) of the poorest countries. The results of the study leaves no room for doubt that the PRS poverty reduction strategies approach introduced 5 years ago offer key points of departure for the fight against corruption. Thank you guys. You know what? I love you. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and please don't forget to click on the notification bell to receive notifications. I remain my humble self, Messiah. Have a nice day, guys, and I love you all.